Past players, past legends, past legends.
Tonight we are privileged to have on the show Kieren McGuinness, the great man. Kieren played 23 games for Western Bulldogs. Still buggered that it wasn't at least 223 after being drafted at number 42 in 2001. He ended up at the Parade. He played in 2007. Then him and Georgia decided to travel. Came back in 2009 to 14. 130 games, 13 goals. Captained the club, BNF. All-round great bloke. Welcome aboard, Kieren.
Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for the introduction, Malcolm.
Like we say with most of our guests, that's all we've got time for. It's a pretty impressive stat sheet.
That's enough from my point of view. We can wrap it up there.
Absolutely. Mate, like we do with most of our guests, we like to get a little bit of background info in where they started their junior career, and we'll work our way from there, mate.
I grew up in the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne, and I played a lot of sport as a young guy, but didn't really start getting into the football until I was probably 13 or 14. Played a lot of basketball, a little bit of cricket, but had a go at football when I was sort of 14 years old, just down at the local footy club down at Wantirna South.
I actually know that ground, K-Mac. I was quite impressed when I read that earlier.
Yeah. There you go. How funny is that? I actually I played. It's funny enough that I'm talking about it. I had a conversation with a guy, Robbie Flower's son. I played with when I was down there, and Robbie Flower was around the footy club quite a bit actually. And I had his son was Brad, and I actually haven't spoken to Brad for probably 10 years, and I got a call from him during the week actually. So there's still some connections down at that footy club for me, and I was lucky enough to play with some really, really good footballers actually, and had a really great time in my junior football, sort of 14s, 15s and 16s out at Wantirna. And yeah, I was really lucky enough to have a really good time and be around some really nice people when I was there.
Emma's sister lived at Wantirna, so when we were over there, it's a while ago now. Emma's actually over in Melbourne seeing her at the moment.
There you go.
Over there then, I actually had a run around. We had a run around with the kids on that ground. So yeah, when I read earlier Wantirna South, I thought the old small sporting world again, K-Mac.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's amazing actually. It's not. It's funny. I lived in Adelaide for sort of 8 or 9 years, and I don't think there was anyone in the state of South Australia who knows where Wantirna is. So it's funny to be hearing that from yourself, Malcolm, that there's a small connection there. So
yeah, just pure by fluke. When I read that earlier, I thought, oh wow, I wish I'd read that with you years ago. I would have mucked around about that with you. So anyway.
I might have to look that one up on Google Maps actually.
Just Google it
next time I'm in. So obviously playing your junior career there, you. Did you have aspirations of playing higher, or were you just happy to get a game at the local club at that stage?
Well, it kind of all happened quite quickly because I really started when I was about 14. You're sort of on the path, like that's, I think from about 14 onwards, you kind of, people can work out who's good and who's not good, or who's any sort of chance really. So for me, I sort of got down to the footy club probably 4 or 5 games into the season, and I was kind of going okay straight away. So I didn't, I thought certainly after the first season I was playing there, and I'd probably turned 15 years old by that stage, I sort of had a bit of an idea that I was okay at it. But I certainly struggled with a lot of the confidence. So you kind of go and get picked for the for the like the Eastern Rangers it was at that stage, or it still is now. And then I'd sort of go and try out there, and I'd roll on down there. And I always found the first sort of 6 weeks, 2 months, I'd really be at the back of the group, and I'd hardly touch the ball. And I didn't quite think that I had it in me, probably just on reflection. But I do remember playing a game out at Hillsville, and probably as a 15 or 16-year-old. And I remember they put me up forward in the last quarter, and I'd play, I think I might have kicked 4 goals in the last quarter. And that was, I think, when people really sort of started to take notice that I wasn't just a good, local club footballer. I was probably a little bit better than that. And so that was sort of as a 15, 16-year-old, really. And then it goes fairly quickly after that. So I don't know. From my point of view, I didn't really have a lot of time to think about it. I thought I was always okay, but sort of hard to know. And probably there's probably a stage when you're really young, when everyone probably thinks they're going to play AFL football, which I'm actually going through with my son at the moment, actually, which is quite funny. But
swings and roundabouts.
Swings and roundabouts. I probably didn't realise until I was probably 16 or 17 that I was probably going to get to that level. And then probably before that, a whole lot of unknown, really.
So just give us a little bit of background on how the under-18 system works, obviously in Victoria, because obviously here in South Australia we had 15s, 17s, 19s, and now it's 16s, 18s, reserves, league. How does it sort of work in Victoria? Because it is a slightly different format.
Yeah, it is different. It's very different. So you effectively you go and play for your local footy club, which everyone goes and, you want to play footy, you go and play at your local footy club. And then from your local footy club, I'm not sure what the competition is over here, but what it's called anymore. It used to be the TAC Cup, TAC Cup,
that's right.
When I was floating around. So where I was out at Wantirna, so the representative club out there is the Eastern Rangers. So the Eastern Rangers go around to all the clubs within the region, and they pick the best players. I think they might even start from under 14s. I think they might go 14s, 16s, and 18s. So in the under 14s, they go around to all the under 14 teams and they pick their best players, and then you play a couple of. It's more like practice matches, really. It wasn't a season at that age. Against Oakley Chargers, Gippsland Power, Bendigo, that kind of stuff. And then from there they pick the state under 14s and 16s from there. And then it's not like SA where you're aligned to a club as such. Yep. You get picked from your club to play for the Eastern Rangers.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the under 18s, if you make the under 18s competition, you play a whole season with those guys, which is different to the under 14s and 16s. You play for your local club at under 14s and 16s, and then you get picked for the Rangers, and then you play a few practice matches against some of the other clubs, and then it's not until the under 18s where they play a full season. And then if you're sort of half reasonable for Eastern Rangers or Oakley, then they'll pick you for the Teal Cup side, so Vic Metro versus Vic Country. And that's really the pathway over in Victoria, and it differs from SA in that you can go and play in Norwood in the under 12s or 14s or 13s or 15s or whatever they're doing, and you play in that. You do a pre-season with them. You develop with them the whole way through. So it was slightly different when I was going through in that sense. I had more of an alignment to my local club as a 14 and 16-year-old than I probably feel like they may have had. They may have over the SA, the South Australian way that they do it, really. So
it's almost like an academy style model in a way, a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably a pretty reasonable way to put it, actually. Yep. Yeah, it was a little bit more like that, I think, yeah.
So, coming up the draft, how many clubs showed interest in you before the draft?
I think nearly all of them did, really. There weren't too many that I didn't have some solid communication and contact from, whether it was people coming over to my house to sit down and have a chat, whether it was meeting people for a coffee, whether it was just getting interviewed at the draft camp. So I had, if there were 18 teams, it probably feels like probably 75% of them were sort of saying to me, look, if you're around when we've got a pick at this particular stage, we'll probably take you. So it was kind of, most of the clubs, I don't remember exactly who sort of didn't show any interest in it, in me, but I do recall that I had a fairly strong interest from just about everyone, and probably most of them kind of saying, look, if you're around, we'll take you.
And ended up at Western Bulldogs. Your thoughts there originally and all that side of things, Kieren?
Pretty... Yeah, what was that?
Was that, I was going to say, was that still at the Whitten Oval, as in you were playing some games there? Yep.
No, they weren't then. So my first year was 2002, and I'm not sure on the exact year that they finished up.
Jeez, we've only just been around there. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't long before me. It was which was interesting. It was Western Bulldogs back then it wouldn't be right to say that it was amateurish. It's sort of the wrong way to put it, but it was, in terms of the infrastructure around the footy club and the professionalism and all of those things. It was back in 2002. It was a long, long way from what AFL football is now, a long way. And I think the Bulldogs probably were even a bit further back beyond than some of the other clubs. It was a great experience. I mean, first sort of few months, it's fairly daunting, and I was a pretty shy and quiet kid. So I didn't really say too much, but you grow up pretty quickly around footy clubs, and some of the guys that I spent a lot of time with, they're pretty. They were terrific fellas, and you grow up around these guys, and you turn from a boy really into a man around these guys. So it's a really interesting time in your life, really, on reflection. But it was tough. It was hard. It was physical. Everything you would have thought that the Western Bulldogs would have been late 90s, early 2000s, it was exactly like that. The toughest survived, and if you weren't of that ilk, then you had a talking to, and you were told to pull your socks up, and that was sort of the environment that I found myself in my first year, really, first couple of years at the Bulldogs, because that's culturally what they were like.
Debuted against Essendon, kicked a goal early. Played mainly up forward there, Kieren. Very young too, I must admit. I did Google that goal today. Jeez, you look young, K-Mac.
It's funny. It's my 40th birthday on Saturday.
I thought that was around about now.
And I sort of look in the mirror now, and you sort of approaching these kind of milestone birthdays, and you think, geez, I'm looking a lot older. The eyebrows are grey. It's a long time ago now. But very, very fond memories.
So you mentioned, obviously, the AFL in its professional era, I suppose, was just in its infancy. Who was your coach back then?
My first coach of the Doggies was Terry Wallace. Yep. I had him in my first year, And then he finished up sort of right at the back end of my first year, and Peter Rowe got the gig. So he jumped in. I think he coached the last round of that season and then got the permanent position after that for a couple of years.
Bit of a Nord influence already there, mate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I think he was fairly influential on getting me across to Norwood, from what I've heard as well.
Okay, we'll get to that
later. Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Get to that. So you played up forward to start with the Dogs. Did you play down back that much with them?
Nah,
because that to me is still the most mystifying thing. How many years we went through, the Western Bulldogs lacked the key defender,
and yet had one under their
belt and didn't play him there. Unbelievable. Because as I consistently make the point in my Troy Chaplin sledges, I've got you as a mile better player than Troy Chaplin. He played over 200 games. So, yeah,
I think I certainly would have. And it probably goes back to a little bit not the amateurishness, but there's not as many eyes watching people play football as there is now back then. And I think it's not 100% to do with this, but I think a better identification and some information about what made me a good player and the better positions that I'd be suited to would have been really beneficial for me. I mean, I was running around on a wing in the AFL and the VFL for 2 years and really not kind of going anywhere with my football. And I'd played some games early days, just playing on someone and some good draft picks as a young kid, and did really well, but it never really eventuated into anything bizarre in terms of someone saying, all right, this guy's got some ability to beat people one-on-one and play as a defender and then attack a little bit more. It just seemed to be, I felt like I probably could have done with a little bit more coaching in that regard and some knowledge as to my skill set and where that fit into playing good football. And I think going back to 2001, 2, 3, it's not as professional as it was now, and I think the Bulldogs were even a little bit behind in that sense as well. But that's just the way it is, and that's fine.
So you mentioned Plowers being one of your coaches. What was he like as a coach? I mean, obviously we're talking about that.
Seen the film.
Yes, that the AFL was in its infancy as far as professional goes. Was there many assistant coaches giving you that direction, or was it more from Terry himself?
Yeah, we had. So Terry Wallace was the coach there. Dave Noble was an assistant.
Okay, yeah. He's been an assistant for a while, yeah.
He's been an assistant. Alan Richardson was an assistant in my first year.
Okay.
And who was the Sharky? I can't remember his name. I can't remember his Phil something.
Phil Malin?
Phil Malin. Phil Malin was the other assistant coach. There you go.
Good call.
Sharky. So they were the three assistants. Yeah, he was, yeah. So they were the assistant coaches. Got on really well with Nobes, Dave Noble. Got on really well with him, actually. Found him to be really good. Terry Wallace I got on well with Plow as well. He liked the way I played football, so that makes it easier, the relationship straight away. But he certainly was an intense, very, very intense person, and a little bit polarising, I think would be fair to say as well, around the footy club. But, intelligent, astute, good, a motivator, personable, but a very, very intense character as well. So. And
then under Rhodey?
Yeah. Yeah, Peter Roder and I got on quite well. I think he thought I was a half reasonable footballer, so that helped me early days. I played a little bit of football under him when he first got the coaching gig, and that was quite okay for a while. And I think I probably just lost my way a little bit, and the club stopped really understanding. Or I think the position that I played was really up in the air. No one could quite work it out. And I think that probably cost me a bit as well. So then I found myself out of the team and really stuck in the VFL with, playing on the wing for a bit and not really enjoying it and not really knowing what I'm doing really. And that sort of cycle lasted for about a year, probably 12 months, 18 months really, and probably cost me a little bit in the end really. So look, I really liked Ray. I thought he was sensational, really terrific man. Good football person, and I really liked him. But certainly by the end of his time, I wasn't playing great football, and I wasn't getting picked in the team, and that was hard as well.
So, how did your time at the Dogs come to an end effectively?
So then Rodney Eade got the coaching gig.
Another sort of intense, interesting personality as well. Yeah,
and we really struggled with each other, Rocket and I, and it was not in the sense that we had confrontation with each other, because I just wasn't very confrontational. It was
no, that's not you as a person, Kieren.
Yeah, it was more just me. I can't talk to him, or I can't really. The feedback sessions with him were really hard, one-on-one, and I really struggled with him. It was. On reflection, it was probably just easier for me to not be around him. So I'd probably do what I could to avoid those situations, and it's probably happier playing in the VFL if I'm really honest. And that was hard. And I think on reflection, I would have liked to have been a bit of a stronger person in that respect. But over the years, I've sort of thought, actually, you know what, I was only 22, 23 years old, and still probably developing as a young man. So you kind of think, well, kind of forgiven myself for that a little bit. But they were hard years. And certainly by the end of it, I was very, very ready to not be in the AFL system.
It comes back to really just poor communication by the club, really, with lack of development, coaching, and hey, what makes this kid tick? What can we get the best out of? And that side of things. It's interesting how those sort of things can break down.
I think so, yeah. And I probably, in some ways, I was probably a little bit high maintenance in what I needed. Like I needed to sit down and talk with people and have a connection with people. And for whatever reason, that was just who I was at that age. And that maybe that's a little bit harder than, like, so there are other people like a Daniel Cross, and it was more for him, it's just give him an opportunity to learn and develop as a footballer, throwing balls, give him time trials to run and he'd just go and do it. And that was fantastic for him. But it just, for me, it wasn't quite working. I was a little bit different in that respect. I could have definitely have done things better myself as well. So you sort of reflect on those things as well. But it's certainly, I left the AFL environment thinking that it wasn't the right environment for me. This was not the right place for me. And Rocket was the coach, and that didn't work for me at all. So it was certainly better for me to be out of the system in terms of,
sad that. It's just poor. It's just sad that in terms of the system lost a person who should have been a very good player. And, yeah, as I said, development-wise, not good enough by the club. And, the kid can speak up more as well.
Yeah, but it's a case of it's not a one size fits all, and I think that's what it was back then that they can get into, and we even see it today.
You still see it today. Don't worry about that. Yeah. So from there, what ended up getting you to Norwood from there, Kieren?
I wanted to move into state. I wanted a bit of a change, not for anything other than really just a bit of an adventure, to be honest with you, which sounds funny. And wanted to be just interstate somewhere, and I wanted to keep playing footy. And realised fairly quick, I had a really good mate who I went to school with who's from Adelaide. And so I spoke to him a little bit about the SANFL. Spoke to his family about it. They're just out there, Adelaide people. And
who's that, mate?
Well, it's funny. Their surname is Bidmead, and I think Ian was a lawyer. He might have been on the board of Tennis Australia for a number of years. Just really sort of around tennis, particularly in South Australia, but certainly a lot of sport in South Australia. Very passionate Adelaide people, really. They love the state, they love the city, all the sport and everything. And so I was heavily influenced by them a lot, actually. And I'm very lucky for that. Spoke to them about a couple of different clubs. So started sort of doing some investigation around the place, and then got in touch with a couple of clubs over there. I know South Adelaide were interested, Sturt, Norwood, North Adelaide. That was probably about it, really. And then through a bunch of different circumstances, ended up deciding that Norwood was the right place for me to play my football.
Thank goodness for that.
That's really.
Did Rhodey? Did you speak to Rhodey about that?
I never did, but I had quite a few people had sort of around the footy club said we've spoken to Peter Rode about you. He speaks highly of you and recommended that we do what we can to get you to the footy club. So I know that he was in the background somewhere, but I hadn't had communication directly with him. I know Scotty Bassett was, because I'd had a couple of years with Scotty Bassett, the Doggies.
Yep.
And Scotty was at Norwood at the time. I think he'd just broken his leg really severely at the start of the previous year. And I'd spoken to him a little bit about Norwood as well, and he sort of encouraged me to have a bit more of a serious think about it.
Back involved at Norwood at the moment again, Scotty.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, back on the fitness side of things. So yeah.
Geez, that's great to hear. He's brilliant at that. It's sort of like you kind of tap into the resources and the connections that you've had along the journey to ask these kind of questions. And it was also a little bit to do with I'd actually been down at the footy club and had a night out with some of the boys from Norwood and just got on really well with them. I thought these are sort of the type of people I enjoy being around, and they were the reasons why I made that decision in the end.
So then you came to Norwood, played in 2007, and then decided was with Georgia then. Was Georgia then around then?
We were on a bit of a break that year when I lived in Adelaide. We started seeing each other a little bit again at the end of that year. We knew each other from Melbourne and had a couple of years together when we were in Melbourne before I moved to Adelaide, and then and then towards the end of the year in 2007, we started communicating again, and sort of thought, she wanted to go overseas, and so did I, and we actually ended up just deciding to go separately and not together. And so I went overseas by myself, and she actually went overseas by herself with some of her friends as well.
Okay. Touch wood on that one.
Move on. Nothing to see here.
Well, we did get together at the end of that year and got engaged, so I can understand how your wires are a bit crossed there.
Yeah, well, so it wasn't that bad a call on my behalf then.
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
Georgia would have a crack at me for getting that wrong too.
No, that's all right.
we might edit that one out. We'll see how we go. Obviously, everyone was talking up Norwood a little bit. Did you know some of the history of the Norwood Footy Club before you arrived?
A little bit, but not a lot. You kind of coming from Melbourne, you kind of you grow up really thinking about. Like I barracked for North Melbourne over here, and my whole life was North Melbourne, and I didn't know much about Essendon's background or Hawthorn's background, let alone Norwood's background. Yep. So it wasn't anything other than, I guess, a little bit of ignorance on my behalf, but just because I grew up being so passionate about the footy club that I went for, which was North, I just didn't think of anything other than the blue and white, really. So I knew like bits and pieces of it. I do remember late 90s and when Brett James, I think it might have been, played in the Norwood Grand Final and the Adelaide Grand Final.
Yeah, 97. Yep.
Yeah, you sort of hear those kind of stories. So I certainly knew about the competition and what it was all about. But much more depth than that was probably, I didn't quite know a lot about it. So it'd be probably fair to say it was a bit of a whole new world for me when I came over.
Ignorance is bliss.
It can be. It can be. It was on this occasion.
It was.
So 2007, played under Trevor Hill. Wasn't a great year. We finished 7th. And that side of things. Then decided to go overseas, and then came back. 2009, we were quite relieved that you came back because we were a little bit worried. So hopefully you won't get the travel bug too much. Again,
I certainly did.
Again, 2009. We struggled again, and it was a mixed year, Hilly and then Jared took over. But then the arrival of Bass. And go for it. Go for it, mate.
Well, that was, it's important sort of stage of my football life. And probably, to be fair, he had a fairly big impact on me just outside of my footy as well. Yeah. And I still think about that a lot. And I learned a lot of things about him, just how to be a better person, and not so much a better person, but just how to organise my life a little bit better, really, and how I want to sort of live to almost day to day, which sounds pretty extreme, but he certainly had a really big impact on me. And same with Scotty as well. Scott and Nathan were both really impactful people for me, and I certainly always remember that. That was an important stage of my football.
Interesting. Quite a few people do privately say that sort of line about Bass's influence. It is fascinating because Bass can have his moments, his Bass attacks, which we were famous to talk about, and we muck around about. You ignored those, but then if you got back on and listened to what Bass, at the right times of Bass, he was fantastic teacher as well. And about life. So he's a fascinating guy, Nathan.
He really is, isn't he? Like he really is.
He has mellowed now.
He has a little bit. Yeah, I sat with him a couple of weeks ago at the reunion, the 2013 reunion. A couple of weeks ago, I sort of got chatting to him, and I mean, I always liked him, and always got on quite well with him, but. Just sitting around the table having lunch, it's sort of hard to know how much he's mellowed because it's a pretty basic and easy conversation. But I've heard people say that. I think that's a good thing.
No, I think it's great. So I go back to Bass. I umpired Bass when he was playing league football while he was at school. So that's how far back I go.
It goes back a way. That's a fair way. Well, you'd probably have a better insight to.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I think that's all part of a coach's development, isn't it? That they can start down on one track and then realise that they've got to change lanes a little bit and attack things on a different level, and then maybe come back to the original level and so on and so on.
That's where the other thing where I'm really complimentary of Bass, that when he took over, we were in the real doldrums. We'd been down for a fair while as a club. elimination final win in 2008 was our highlight for about 10 years. It was our highlight since 2002. So, it hadn't been a great time at Norwood for a fair while. So it's not like he took over at a successful time. And that's where I've got Bass up as my best Norwood coach because of when he took over.
Went from zero to hero.
He had a big impact on the players. I mean, that goes without saying almost. But I think he put he made it probably as professional as he possibly could at that level, at SANFL level. Like he had assistant coaches that were quite good. Scotty, his brother, ran the fitness, and he ran that really, really well. The leadership program he put in place was beyond what other people were doing. He brought people in to advise. Greg Moulton sort of ran that for us and focused a lot on just culturally the footy club, which, in 2009, that was a little bit before
it was ahead of its
time, particularly in the SANFL. And we're not even into the game style yet. We're not even talking about that part of it yet. So there are all these things that Nathan put in, all this framework that he put in around the footy club to give, anyone that wanted to give 100% to their football, give them an opportunity to develop. And that was really what he would always sort of go on about. If people want to be here and develop their game and get better at football, he'll stay out on the field. He'll get there before everyone else and do extra sessions with them. He'll stay out on the field to give those guys an opportunity. He'll sit there and do the video analysis with anyone who wants to. And it was a coach that just was, if people want to develop, I'm here to give you my time to help you be the best footballer you can be. And he was prepared to, throw whatever resources he could to do that.
And I think of one fantastic example of that was Paul Puopolo, where he said to Bass, what have I got to do to get looked at? And Bass said, got to improve your disposal. And there was he'd go and work all day, whatever he was doing with the quarry, digging and all that. Yeah. And then get to training, and the trainers would bring out the bins, and he would run up and down the ground at the end of training, kicking the ball at the bins to try and improve his disposal. And so that was what Bass said, and then was a person who wanted to listen and learn, and look where it ended up getting him. Triple AFL premiership player.
I think it's probably as a coach is the first part of it all is just creating that environment that gives those people that opportunity. And if you've got that environment, you probably don't know which people are going to put their hands up to show that kind of commitment to their football. But certainly, if that is all in place at a footy club, and people have the environment where they can learn and develop, then who knows who's going to come forward and say, I want to do extra kicking or whatever. But you've got to have that in place first. And he set the footy club up to be as professional as it could be. And then from that point onwards, I mean, I remember Ben Jeffries was getting looked at AFL by AFL clubs, and it was because he was playing at Norwood, which was an environment that was very, very conducive to developing footballers.
Yeah.
So you get people, and you just don't know where they're coming from. Alex Giorgio played AFL football, and people wouldn't have picked that when he was 16 years old. You just don't know where it's going to come from.
Yep.
But the first step as the coach is to set up a conducive environment to create a really good culture and to develop footballers. And that's what he did. And the results speak for themselves from that point onwards.
And then 2010 was a great game. So close but so far. Then 2011, we lost the prelim, but I was worried there on the night of prelim. I thought it wasn't a great thing there. I thought it was a bit of anger there that night. It was interesting that then the golden era happened from there, though. So I was probably wrong in my judgment of that night on the I thought he was too hard on Cam Shenton that night, I've got to be honest. And that worried me, leaving that night. And, just quietly I'll be honest, I was by myself that night, so I was just observing and that. And, I thought that was interesting. But then came the 2012.
Was that a case of that you guys had, been together for a year or so, a couple of years, and the game style started to click for you guys?
In 2010 we came through, though.
Yeah.
We came through like a train in 10, and we were bloody unlucky.
But things have got to click a little bit, with a playing group that might have been together for a period of time.
We certainly started slowly in 10, and I think that was a lot of you guys getting to learn Bass's game plan because it was more defensively orientated, and that we started slowly. Yeah. But I think we got it by the end of 2010.
Oh, 100%. I think Bass would say that he tinkered and changed things quite a bit, though, from year to year, and he learned some things as a coach, and he's not, shy in saying that as well. So I don't know. I don't really recall what changed really from 2011 to 2012. Personnel-wise, I'm trying to think who we. I know Suckers came. Matthew Suckers.
Yeah, I reckon Ben Warren was pretty important as a recruit as well.
Straightened you up a little bit.
Yeah, and just
good player.
And even the bit where Dogger would go with under the thing of go the +1 late in the game when we were up, and he did that role superbly. I don't think the amount of goals kicked from Dogger showed how important he was. Dogger showed how important he was to us. And let's go to 2012. 2012, Port Adelaide at Alberton. And about a minute to go, a certain gun number 13 goes down, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How did that, though? I'm not the best watcher of football. I can do the odd ridiculous thing during a game. And then as soon as the siren goes, I can and talk about it rationally.
Yep.
And I think a few of the players have sort of gone to me on that side of things over the years. But, when it happened at Alberton, I don't know why, I immediately ran down to the ground. The thing, there's about to be a security guy about coming over, and he's about to go, grab this guy and all that. And Bass goes, "What do you reckon, Malcolm?" And I'm going, "No, I reckon he's done the ACL." And the security guy just walked away totally dumbfounded that there was the Norwood coach talking to me, to a supporter, So it was, So, and then 2012, I've got to be honest, I've never been so relaxed going to a grand final. There was no way in the world West Adelaide could beat us. They had that defensive game plan, and there was no way they were going to beat us.
And that was at Footy Park too.
Yep. And so really relaxed. But I remember back at the Mayor's Parlour with you that night, Kieren, sitting with you, and you carried yourself with aplomb. You were proud. You still did the bit of the Nord captain upstairs with holding the cup up and all that. But, geez, the eyes were burning. You wanted a flag big time. And I thought, geez, if there's anyone who's going to come back and the players are going to play for him, it's Kieren McGuinness in 2013. And you started the season a little bit slowly when you came back with your knee and that, but then you were away before halfway through, you were the same again. You were the reigning best and fairest, and you were back.
Yeah, it sort of takes. I think the knees are it's a pretty significant injury, and when you go through it, you kind of realise that a little bit more. It takes sort of 12 months to physically get out there, but you kind of got to. I think the boys adapt more at AFL level because they're professional, like they're at the footy club every single day, so they can kind of recreate a match style simulation more frequently and be in that situation a little bit more. But at a AFL level, you're semi-professional, so it's sort of harder to. You're almost using the games that you get back to build up into your match fitness. So it's a little bit hard. I certainly found it hard, actually. I do recall thinking, I don't know that I really played that well again, I reckon, after my knee.
I reckon you were very good in the grand final. I reckon you're putting yourself down a bit there. I thought your grand final was your best game in terms of during that year, and I thought it was really significant that it was Brett Zorzi in his last game at SNFL level. He made sure he got Trent Dumont just for half time when Trent was probably in front for the Jack 80. But it was interesting how the two senior players drove the bus. Yes, the two leaders, but you also drove the bus as players that day, I thought.
I reckon Benny Warren was good that day as well.
Yes, he was.
He kicked a few up front for us.
Especially in he kicked a couple in the last quarter.
Yeah, he was really good for us too. Yeah, the knee, it takes a bit of time to get back from it. Like it's a significant injury, and I probably, like, for me, I relied a lot on my agility and jumping and those kind of things. So for me, my knee it's pretty important for the way that I play my football. So it was hard to really kind of get back to that level.
I think you're selling yourself short. Let's remember you did win the BNF in 2014, mate. So I think you're selling yourself a little bit short there.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I was very happy to be able to, recover from the knee. And I think I remember at the end of 12, I think we won it fairly comfortably, but I also knew that they're hard to get. They don't come around that often. So whilst you sort of finish the season going, all right, we've done that fairly comfortably. Geez, is it going to be the same next year? So you do worry about it. But I was very, very lucky to be part of a good footy club at that particular stage. So we jagged a couple more after that.
How involved were you in 2012? The grand final, yeah.
They weren't relying on me. Put it that way. It was probably more for my sanity, really, as much as anything else. So yeah, I try to have some impact on some of the players and spend some time with them and go to training and get to the games and sit in the coach's box and impart some of my wisdom. But look, they would have won the grand final if I wasn't there. Put it that way. But I just try to involve myself, just while I'm doing my rehab. And if you sort of think if I can give anyone, anything at all during this season that might help the footy club, and you sort of go, well, that's worthwhile being around for. But you never know. You never know how much impact you had, and so you, it was.
Absolutely. And then obviously in 13 you get to play in one. And what's your memories of that day, and maybe your favourite memory of that 13 grand final, apart from being that you're a winning captain?
I like the cowboy hat you wore that night.
Oh, I remember that. That's right. I think I wore that for the next week as well. The celebrations.
The other thing too, I reckon, Kieren, is in 13 as Norwood people, when North came out of the ground and North made the decision to start start Johnson back in defence, I reckon we all gave each other high fives as Norwood people. We were pretty happy about that.
I think it was probably a pretty good sign that they were sort of changing the way that they probably potentially play their best football, maybe because of who they were coming up against. But that was, I remember, I still get a lot of stick for it, but I won the toss at the start of the game, and I kicked it in against the wing in the first quarter, and I still get a lot of stick from the boys for doing that. So probably my favourite part really was winning the game, just because then I didn't have to put it.
Fair point. That
2-5-17 to 1-2-8. I think it was a pretty masterful move, really.
I kind of thought that as well, but what I do is I've got no idea which way we're going to kick. So before I go and do the toss the coin, I just speak to the forwards and I say to them, "Hey boys, which way do you want to kick?" I distinctly remember asking Brady Dorr which way he wants to kick, and he pointed to the direction I think that we were warming up at. And
maybe you didn't pick the right person to ask, just quietly.
No, maybe that was the issue. But anyway, terrific day. Yeah, terrific day. Really, a lot of fun.
And the last 5 minutes, obviously, you're up by six or seven goals at the time. And did you get to sort of savour it a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're standing around the back line with some of the boys, and I remember Benny Warren kicking a couple of goals and turned to some of the boys, and you sort of start talking about that kind of stuff now. At that point of the game, when you're a few goals up and there's not that long to go, so you definitely drop the shoulders a bit, relax a bit more, and start having a bit of a laugh about it. But just trying to think, was that the year was there a brawl? I think Jace Bowden might have had a.
Yeah, it was a bit, but it wasn't a huge amount.
It wasn't like the bloodbath that we talked about with a few others.
I think it got quite quite heated in the last quarter.
Wasn't also though
that that was the West Adelaide.
West Adelaide bit, yeah. West Adelaide bit, yeah.
I'm thinking of the West Adelaide when I think Bodie came running off the ground yelling at Andy Collins and So I'm getting
no love lost there.
No love lost there. It was I remember the last little bit of the game. You're enjoying it. And
of course, 13 was also at the brewery where Brett Sawsey didn't have a voice where he got called up. That was very funny.
That's right. That was very funny. That was very funny. I do remember that. Yeah, really good celebrations actually.
And then 14. Look, let's go through 14 in terms of. So we finished by that we're playing Port. Very strong side. 19 AFL listed players playing. Second semi-final, the qualifying final was the Michael Chippendale display where Chippy had his best game. Just marked everything in defence. Like I think we won that where Sturt had actually a bit similar to last weekend with about 14, 15 more inside 50s where Chippy just dominated that day.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
And then the second semi was a great game. If ebbed and flowed, we were down in the last quarter. Matty Panos goal out near the boundary line, and Brady Dorr had a very good last quarter as well.
I think Anthony Wilson kicked one as well.
And then the grand final was also a great game, and Tim Ginniver has commentary where Tim admits it's the one time where it really showed his Port flavour, and it's fair enough. Let's be honest, 7-time premiership player. He's of course he's a Port man, and
it was back at Adelaide Oval as well for the first time.
He was very insistent on Port get the ball away from McGuinness. You are allowing McGuinness to set the standard here, and I still stir Tim up about that with his commentary to this day. So always have a bit of fun about that.
I remember it must be because it was really the last year I played there, but I remember that season probably better than most. And I remember I always think about it as it's the best home and away match I reckon I ever won. In round one, we beat Port Adelaide at Norwood.
Yeah, Panos and Greg were excellent that night. Yeah, on ball.
Wilson was as well that night.
It was a big crowd that night too, actually. Yeah.
And then it was the best finals match we won, which was the semi-final, whatever it was, against Port.
Yeah, I agree.
Semi, and then just flat out the best game of football that I ever won, which was the grand final.
Yeah.
And they were all against Port Adelaide, and they were all that season. And they were terrific wins for different reasons, but it was sensational. I mean, the whole season was just terrific, and finishing up with the grand final that we had was fantastic. Really.
Of course, this final siren with the ball coming towards you as the siren went. Thank goodness, with very good timekeeping. I thought.
I'll never forget it. I remember it so clearly, exactly what I was doing, where I was, looking at the ball coming towards us. It was unbelievable. And the siren went, and God Almighty, that was amazing scenes. Yeah, very lucky to be a part of that. That was incredible.
You guys jumped them early, 5-1-31 to 1-3-9.
We were good.
Yeah,
you want to get off to a good start in the grand final, and that's the way to do it.
Yep. Our forwards were looking really.
Yeah, Liam Davis was really good early.
I remember we got the ball in fairly. I remember getting them quickly, and
we did. Yeah,
one-on-ones to them, so they gave them a really good opportunity. We gave our forwards a pretty reasonable opportunity early on, and they had a pretty good look at them. It looked a little bit too good for them, so we certainly jumped out of the blocks on them, which was, as you said, really nice in the grand final.
And then from that point on, it was a bit of an arm wrestle, wasn't it?
Yeah, they came back, then it became pretty even at half time. We got a goal just for half time where Jimmy Allen to Callum Bartlett and that. So this has all been just done by memory too, as you know, Kieren. I don't.
Your memory's better than mine. Your memory's better than mine.
Yeah, and then the last half wasn't it ebb and flow, and Summerton had that shot. Yeah, it certainly could have gone either way, and we missed a couple in the last quarter.
We did. Yep. I remember that.
And that, Juice and JD missed one as well, and that wonderful sound of the siren, and Jeff Wilson to have a go at me if I didn't mention that he gave you a lift back to the parade from there, and Yeah, what a great night that was. It was just...
That was terrific.
It was just almost a real quiet reflection at times, rowdy at times. How good was this at times? It was sort of a lot of different emotions that night, I found. Just sitting, we were chatting away, and, it's certainly one of my favourite nights. And purely by total fluke, when I left, got back to the car, walking back to my car, and burst out laughing because the Port, bloody song, which we now can't watch, the In Excess song came on. It's the first time I've listened to that song ever since bloody Port picked it. And I was just pissing myself laughing, sitting by my car. It was about 2 in the morning, and that's the benefits of being the boring non-drinker, that you can remember everything by that stage.
It gets a bit blurry for me then.
And then from there, mate, obviously, what have you been doing since with your career?
Yeah, we'll go a bit more depth than that. So you decided to go back to Melbourne, and at that stage it wasn't really going to be it certainly wasn't definitely footy, was it, Kieren, originally?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't really. And I sort of got a building background, really, so I was looking to kind of get a bit more involved in that, and had some communication with the Carlton Footy Club, really, about coming down and getting involved in their VFL program and doing some part-time development stuff at the AFL. So I had a bit of a go at that. I did that for 2 years, really, and then that didn't quite go. Again, just sort of got to a certain point when I just sort of thought the AFL environment probably wasn't quite, or that sort of environment wasn't quite the one for me.
Yeah, but let's go on, Kieren. Let's go a bit more there. The fateful day playing for Northern Bullets. Go through that a bit, mate. And,
Well, that I think that probably put my wife and I really on the back foot with any kind of involvement in football from that point onwards. Really, that was a really, really tough sort of period in our life. I know Georgia was on the sidelines, and she had 2 kids, and she was probably 4 months pregnant with her third, and I'd taken a pretty decent hit, and ended up in an ambulance with 3 breaks in my spine, on the base of my neck, really.
And thank goodness the Carlton doctor was so conservative and recognised the pain in your arm, that could have been other things, and I was lucky in that respect, really. And look, out of that, Kieren, too, what happened was Kevin Hammond messaged me, have you heard about K-Mac? I said, no. And within about 15 minutes, messenger chat group with Gags and Bodie and everyone there was, and it showed really quickly how the immense respect you're held in, and just, hey, shit, this is really serious. And I got up and wrote an article the next morning, as much as to get it out to the Norwood faithful, as much as anything. And when you said to me that you read that article when you're in spinal traction and read all the comments a few times there, and I also really appreciated when you called me down to the fence in 14, that meant a lot to me, but it was bloody scary, that everything what happened there came at.
It was a scary time. Very lucky in a lot of ways to come through it. Probably as well as I have. But I guess that was sort of the beginning and the end in a lot of ways in terms of my involvement in football. It just sort of knocked our whole family around, really, and we kind of worked out after that it was sort of the football just out there. From the the nights and the weekends and the interstate and all that kind of stuff. After going through that period of time, and we just had about to have our third child, and it was, very much a situation where I felt I'm keen to just spend more time with the family. My wife needs me around, and let's do things a little bit more as a family from now on. And that's probably the reason why I sort of really found myself leaving football. Which has worked out quite well. I've actually just started my own business, a building company, recently, and that's going really well at the moment.
Great stuff, mate.
Give it a little plug, mate. We go around the world with this podcast. You never know who might be listening.
It's actually too busy over here to.
You must be doing something right there, mate.
No, I think it's just because I'm building. Your phone sort of goes absolutely flat out, and you sort of think I don't want to overstretch myself because it's probably not a good move. But I think as soon as someone hears that you're a builder, they give you a call and say, "Hey, can you come and do it?" Like it's very busy and hectic over here, really, which is a really good thing. But there's a little bit of management around that part of it too. So. But it's at the moment that's working really well for us as a family. I'm around the kids a lot. I'm home.
How old are your kids now, K-Mac?
10, 8 and 6 they are.
Yep.
So they're starting to get to that age where they sort of need their old man around a fair bit. And, luckily enough, I'm able to to spend a fair bit of time around with the family. And my wife Georgia's got she runs a hand therapy business.
Yep.
She's had that going for about 2 years now, and that's going really well. So we're sort of finding that we're in a nice place at the moment, actually, as the kids kind of get a little bit older and they want to hang around with us still. It's a nice little time with our life. So we're quite happy over here at the moment, which is great.
So basically, to finish off, we'll get you out here on this one. We always ask who was the toughest opponents you played against. We'll do it in twofold, at the Bulldogs and also at Norwood.
From it, as in an individual player?
Yeah, an individual. We always pick a couple of players. You don't have to pick one. Yeah, just a couple.
Go whatever angle you want, mate.
Yeah.
I played on. I remember playing on McGuinness for about a quarter.
It's an interesting matchup, K-Mac.
About a half, and I sort of it is, and I thought I had him. I'm like, far out. He's not a whole lot quicker than me. I've got him overhead. I think I'm he's kind of playing him for 10 minutes, and you kind of go to a couple of contests. You're like, no, I think I'm all right here. And then in the space of about 2 minutes, he's kicked 2 goals on me, just hitting front centres. And I'm like, how the hell did he get his hands on it? And then I found myself on the bench, and someone else is playing on it. So you sort of just within about 10 minutes, I've gone from I've got this guy, I've got him done, and then I'm on the bench, and I'm like, oh, what the hell just happened there? So he was a handful. I played on I managed to have moments where I was on Nathan Buckley for a bit. I was on James Hurd for a quarter. I played on Pavlich for a half.
Yep.
Against Freo, he was pretty good.
Yes.
Handy.
Yeah, he was handy. So I was it was more just I was really privileged to have played on those guys, really. And I don't think anyone really got away from me all that much, other than that you sort of feel like, oh God, if this guy gets reasonable delivery here, or if I was playing up forward and they were playing on me, I'm like, I can't even get the ball here. So I played on Adam Goods actually for a half a footy too. I forgot about that. So there's a lot of good players that you sort of find yourself rolling around against in the AFL, and they sort of could all do something ridiculously well. Pavlich was just incredibly strong. He'd sort of be with him, but he was too strong, and Ackermanis was a bit too clever, and Adam Goods could just keep running. So they sort of all seem to have a bit of an ability to do something really at a special level. SANFL wise,
Chambers was Sturt. You had
Chambers
some battles.
was good. Chambers was good. I had some decent battles with him.
Hammelberg at Centrals.
Yeah, I didn't have him. I had him in bits and pieces. Hammelberg. A little bit with Chambers as well. I think I might have played one full game on Chambers. Who was the other guy at Sturt that I had some decent battles with? He played at Gold Coast he was after Chambers. He might have been their captain. I'm trying to remember what his name was.
Code?
What was that?
Code? Code? I can't think of his first name.
Code. Yeah, Code. That was him. He was bloody good.
Yeah, he could play.
Bloody good.
Yep.
I found him a real handful. Actually, he was probably the toughest guy I played on in the SANFL, and I'd play not that he's better than Chambers or anything like that, but I played on Chambers, and it's often just the style that an individual plays and whether that suits you as a defender or an opposition player. And I think the way that Chambers sort of played suited me in terms of my ability to defend someone, whereas Code he sort of had the ability to do everything really. Like he was good below his feet. He could mark it. He'd get in behind you. He was quick enough. He sort of had a lot of bases covered, and that kept me right on my toes. So
a lot of ability. Actually, I agree with that.
He was a good footballer. He was a very good footballer. And then some of the midfielders while around me in the SANFL that I didn't really play against all that much, but I never played on. But we seemed to have a fierce rivalry with him. Like I really came to blow like Paul Thomas and even Jade Sheedy, Sikalala. We sort of verbalised quite a fair bit on the field, so we weren't really on each other, but we'd always seemed to be getting stuck into each other. And I had a huge amount of respect for the way that those guys played footy. They were very, very, very good footballers. And a lot of those guys were, every bit as good as a lot of the AFL guys rolling around too.
Exactly.
So it was a lot of different players there for you.
And what about played with, mate?
Oh, some of the guys that I played, certainly the AFL, I'm trying to think, probably Brad Johnson was the one that I remember probably being...
Scotty West.
Scotty West was very, very good. I think Chris Grant, I sort of got the back end of him.
Yeah.
But he did his knees in my second year, I remember that. So I never quite got the best of him. But I certainly watched him growing up, and he was a star. But I think when I was there, probably Brad Johnson was probably the best going round. And I actually thought he was better than Scotty West. Scotty West won all the BNFs and he was a phenomenal player. But I really liked what Brad Johnson could do. And probably the sort of SANFL level, probably Zorz was probably the one that was
Zorz and Gags.
Was probably best. Bryce Campbell was probably up there as well, actually, to be fair.
Yep.
He was a good footballer. I think certainly Zorz, I really think he was as good as a lot of the AFL guys that I rolled around with in the VFL. That he was as good as those guys. I'm so certain of that. And he was probably it was actually late to him as well. Like I didn't quite initially. I thought he was a really good footballer, but didn't quite realise how good he was. And it wasn't until he sort of played a lot of football in the midfield and got up and going there that I really.
He was bloody competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very competitive. He was probably the pick of them.
Hey, Kieren,
in terms of team,
greatly appreciated, mate. Please pass on best wishes to Georgia and the family as well, mate. So greatly appreciated. One of the Norwood greats, Kieren McGuinness. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, cheers.